The dropship door opened and the cold hit us like a slap from a giant hand. I watched 52 cadets step out onto the ice of Glacius 4. By the end of that first day, I was certain that 40 of them would be dead. I was wrong about the number. It was 50, and the human girl was humming a song. My name is Vel. I come from a race called the Silvac. We have scales and long tails, and we are built for cold weather. My home world sits high in the mountains where the air is thin and the nights are freezing. I grew up climbing ice cliffs before I could read. At the Galactic Academy, I finished first in 3 different subjects. When the teachers chose squad leaders for the famous ice trial, my name was at the top of the list. I was proud. I was ready. I thought I understood what cold meant. I did not understand anything. The ice trial is the most feared test at the Academy. It has been running for over 200 years. Cadets are dropped on the frozen moon of Glacius 4 and must survive for 7 days. They must walk across 400 kilometers of ice. They must reach 3 marked points on the map. They must do all of this with only basic supplies. The pass rate is less than 3 out of every 10 students. Many students are hurt. Some are lost. Every year, the Academy holds a ceremony for those who do not come back. Every cadet knows the risk before they sign their name on the list. My squad was made of 12 cadets. 4 were Silvac like me. 2 were from a swamp world called Draver. They glowed faintly in the dark, which was pretty but useless for survival. 3 were from an insect race called the Ketan. 2 were plant people called Florins. And the last one was her, the human. Her name was Nora Bell, and she was from a place called Kalat 3. I had never heard of Kalat 3. I checked the records. It was marked as a level 9 death world. That rating is almost never given. It means the planet actively tries to kill anything that lives on it. The air is barely breathable. The temperature drops to -90 at night. The animals there are said to eat through armor plating. The notes said only 100,000 humans live there in total. It was a small colony, a hard place. Nora did not look hard. She was short, with brown hair and a soft smile. She looked like she belonged in a quiet library, not on a frozen death moon. When she introduced herself to the squad, she gave a little wave and said she was happy to meet everyone. I almost laughed. I put her on the list of cadets most likely to need medical help within the first hour. I was being kind in my estimate. The dropship rose into the sky above the Academy launch pad. The captain told us our drop point was 800 kilometers from the first checkpoint. That was 200 more than normal. I asked why. He said the weather was bad and he could not get any closer. I felt my stomach turn. This was going to be worse than I feared. As we flew, the other cadets checked their gear. I saw fear in their eyes. Even the Silvac cadets who come from cold places looked pale under their scales. One of the Dravorians was already shaking. The Florins held each other close, their leaf-like skin trembling. Only Nora seemed relaxed. She was looking out the small window and smiling at the storm below. I moved closer to her seat. I wanted to see what a death world human was made of before the ice broke her. I asked her if she was nervous. She turned and gave me that soft smile. "A little," she said. "I have never worked with a team before. Back home, I usually hunt alone. I hope I do not slow anyone down." I blinked. Slow us down. She was worried about slowing us down. I looked at her small hands and her thin arms, and I felt a strange feeling that I could not name. It was not pity. It was something else. Something like standing near a sleeping animal and not knowing what kind of animal it was. The ship began to shake. We were entering the storm. The captain's voice came over the speakers. "Surface temperature is now -71, he said. "Wind speed 180 kilometers per hour. I am sorry, cadets. This is the worst I have seen in years. Good luck." The ramp began to lower. The wind rushed in. It was like a wall of ice pushing against my chest. I could not breathe. I could not think. Half the squad cried out at once. The Dravorians fell to their knees. One of the Florins started to weep, which was bad because the tears would freeze to their face in seconds. I turned to shout orders, and I saw Nora. She had taken off her thermal cloak. She was holding it out to the Dravorian who was shaking the hardest. She was wearing only her basic uniform now. Her bare arms were already in the freezing wind. She was not even flinching. "Take this," she said to the Dravorian. "I will freeze solid before I even feel the cold. You need it more." The Dravorian took the cloak with shaking hands. I wanted to stop Nora. I wanted to tell her she was being foolish. But before I could speak, she turned and walked down the ramp. She did not stumble. She did not gasp. She walked out into -71 degrees like she was stepping into her own garden on a pleasant afternoon. She took a deep breath of the killing air. She stretched her arms above her head. And then she said the words that I will remember for the rest of my life. "Oh, this is nice and crisp," she said. "It feels just like summer back home." "Summer," she said, "summer." I stood at the top of the ramp, unable to move. The wind was trying to throw me back into the ship. My lungs burned with every breath. My scales were already turning gray from the cold, and this small human was standing in the open, rolling her shoulders, looking around like she was at a pleasant picnic. The rest of the squad came down the ramp behind me. They moved slowly, gripping the rails, fighting the wind. 2 of the Ketan cadets fell and had to be helped up. The Florins could barely walk. My own squad mates, strong and cold-ready, were already suffering, and Nora was kneeling down in the snow now, running her fingers through it as if she was greeting an old friend. The dropship lifted off. The blast of its engines threw ice crystals in every direction. I covered my face. When I looked up, the ship was gone and we were alone on the frozen world. The storm roared around us. The sky was a wall of gray. I could not see more than 50 meters in any direction. I pulled out the emergency radio. I turned it on. I wanted to hear the other squads. I wanted to know we were not the only ones out here. What I heard made my blood turn to ice. "This is Squad Delta 2, a voice was crying. "We need help. 2 of our cadets are down. I repeat, 2 are down. We cannot move them. Please send help." "This is Squad Gamma 5. Our shelter broke. We need an emergency pickup. Please, please." "This is Squad Beta 9. We have lost contact with our squad leader. He walked into the storm and did not come back. Please advise." Voice after voice, squad after squad. The trial had been running for only 11 minutes and already the radio was full of panic. I lowered the device slowly. I looked at my 12 cadets, all of them shivering and scared. I looked at the endless white horizon, and I felt, for the first time in my life, the cold touch of real fear. Then I looked at Nora. She had stood up from the snow. She was looking up at the sky, watching the clouds move. She had a thoughtful expression, as if she was studying the weather. Then she turned to me and gave that same soft smile. "Squad leader," she said politely, "may I say something?" I nodded. I could not trust my voice yet. "We should not stay here," she said. "The wind is going to shift in about 20 minutes. When it does, it will push the cold front south. If we are still standing in this open area, we will lose people fast. There is a slight rise about 200 meters to the west. It will block the worst of the wind. We can build shelter there." I stared at her. She had been on the planet for less than a quarter of an hour. She had not used any equipment. She had simply looked at the sky and read it like a book. And she was suggesting a shelter location with complete calm, as if she was planning a trip to the market. "How do you know the wind will shift?" I asked. She tilted her head. "The clouds on my left are moving faster than the clouds on my right," she said, "and the air smells different than it did 2 minutes ago. Back home, this kind of shift means a cold front is coming. Usually we have about 20 minutes of warning before it hits, sometimes less." She said this so simply, as if everyone could smell cold fronts, as if everyone could read clouds like an ancient book of weather wisdom. I gave the order. The squad began to move toward the rise she had pointed out. It was hard. The snow was deep and the wind was strong. 2 cadets fell. Nora helped them up without a word. She carried one of the smaller Florins on her back for the last 50 meters, and she was not even breathing hard when she set him down. We reached the rise. The wind was indeed less strong there. I began to take out the standard thermal tent. It was made of a special fabric that was supposed to hold in heat even in extreme cold. I had used one before in training. It worked well. It was the pride of our survival gear. I unfolded the fabric. It made a strange cracking sound. I looked down. The fabric had gone brittle in the cold. It was breaking apart in my hands. I tried the anchor spikes. They shattered against the frozen ground like glass. My heart began to pound. Around me, other squad members were having the same problem. One of the Florins lost 3 fingers to the cold before we could get them into the emergency warming pack. The cadets tried to help, but their claws were too stiff to grip the tools. I felt panic begin to rise in my chest. This was the standard equipment. It was supposed to work, and it was failing in front of my eyes. Nora watched all of this for about 90 seconds. Her face was kind. She was not laughing at us. She was just watching, waiting to be asked. Finally, I turned to her. My pride was burning, but my squad was freezing. "Cadet Bell," I said, "do you have a suggestion?" She smiled. "Yes, squad leader, may I try something? It is a thing my people build when we are in deep cold. It is called a snow house. It takes about an hour, but it will keep us warm all night. We just need to work together." I nodded. I did not have a choice. "Show us," I said. And with the wind howling like a wild thing around us, and the storm growing worse by the minute, and the radio still crying with the voices of cadets in trouble all across the ice, the small human girl from the Deathworld knelt down in the snow and began to teach us how to survive. I did not know it yet, but the trial had already changed. Not just for my squad, for all of us, for the whole academy, for everything we thought we knew about humans. The first night had not even begun. And somewhere, out in the storm, something very large and very hungry had noticed us arrive. Nora worked in silence for a few minutes. She was cutting into a snow drift with her combat knife, shaping it into a low dome. Her bare hands pushed the snow into place. I kept waiting for her fingers to turn black. They did not. They did not even turn red. She worked like the cold was not there at all. As I watched her, I saw her pause. She turned her head slightly like an animal listening. She looked out toward the horizon into the wall of white. Her smile faded just for a moment. Her eyes grew thoughtful. Then she turned back to the snow and kept working. "Squad leader," she said without looking up, "how many guns do we have?" "3 sidearms," I answered. "Why?" "Check the power cells," she said. "Make sure they work just in case." "In case of what?" I asked. She kept shaping the snow. Her voice was very calm. "In case one of the big ones comes to visit tonight," she said. "I saw tracks on our way here. Something is circling us. I think it has been watching us since we landed." I felt the cold sink into my bones in a new way. I pulled out my sidearm. I checked the power cell. It flickered weakly. It was already half dead from the cold. I checked the other 2. They were worse. Nora had finished the entrance of her snow house. She stood up and dusted off her hands. She looked at me with that same soft, apologetic smile. "Do not worry," she said. "If it comes, I will handle it. I have some experience with this kind of thing." And somehow, I believed her. Somehow, standing on that frozen death moon, with the storm screaming and my squad freezing and something large circling us in the dark, I believed this small human girl more than I had ever believed anything in my life. I just did not yet know why. By the time we had crawled into the snow house and closed the entrance, the wind outside had reached speeds that should have killed us all. Inside, it was quiet. The walls of snow blocked the storm. The heat from our bodies began to warm the small space. Within 10 minutes, the temperature inside was 20 degrees warmer than outside. 20 degrees, from a pile of snow. I had been trained for 4 years at the best academy in the galaxy. I had studied survival on 50 different worlds, and this human girl, with no equipment and her bare hands, had saved my entire squad in less than an hour. The Florins stopped shivering. The Dravorians began to glow again, their light coming back as their bodies warmed. The Ketan cadets clicked softly to each other, their way of showing relief. My own Silvac squad mates looked at me. Their eyes asked a question that I could not answer. Who was this girl? Nora was sitting near the entrance. She had her knife in her hand. She was not sleeping. She was watching, listening. Her head turned slowly from side to side as if tracking something we could not see or hear. I moved next to her. I kept my voice low. "Thank you," I said, "for the shelter, for everything." She smiled at me. "It is nothing, squad leader. My people have built these for thousands of years. I am glad I could help." "Nora," I said, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Back home on Kalat, is it truly as cold as this?" She laughed softly. It was a gentle sound, not cruel, just honest. "Oh no, squad leader," she said. "This is warm. Back home, right now, it is probably -100. The wind strips the skin off of anything that is not covered. The animals that hunt us have 2 rows of teeth, one inside the other. We do not go outside at night unless we have to. And even during the day, we carry weapons at all times because the ground can open up beneath your feet and things come out of the cracks." She said this calmly, like she was telling me about a pleasant village. "The children learn to kill the big 6 by age 8, she continued. "We have to. If we do not, we do not grow up. My younger sister is the best hunter in our family. She is 12. She has already taken down 3 ice-veiled stalkers. I am nothing special where I come from. I am actually considered a little soft. My mother worries about me sometimes." I stared at her. I could not speak. She turned back to the entrance and lifted her knife a little higher. Her eyes grew sharp. Somewhere, out in the screaming storm, something had moved, something close. "Squad leader," Nora said quietly, "I think our visitor is here. Please tell the squad to stay very still. And if you could hand me my second knife from my pack, I would be grateful. This one is a little small for what is about to come through that door." My hands were shaking as I reached for her pack, not from cold, from something else, something I had never felt before. Outside in the dark a sound came, low, deep, hungry. Nora smiled. "There you are," she whispered to the storm. "I was wondering when you would show up." And the first night of the ice trial truly began. The sound outside grew louder. It was not a roar. It was worse than a roar. It was a low, slow breathing, the breathing of something huge, something patient, something that had hunted on this ice for a very long time. I handed Nora her second knife. She took it and tested its weight. The blade was longer than the first one, almost the length of her forearm. She ran her thumb along the edge. Then she set both knives on the snow beside her. She did not look afraid. She looked focused, calm, ready. My squad was silent behind us. They had all heard the sound. The Dravorians had stopped glowing, pressing themselves against the back wall. The Florins were holding each other, their leaves trembling. My fellow Silvac cadets had drawn their sidearms, even though the weapons were nearly dead. Nora turned her head slightly. She spoke in a whisper, but somehow we all heard her clearly. "When it comes in," she said, "nobody move, nobody shout, nobody shoot. If you shoot, you will miss and it will be angry. Just stay still. This will be over in a moment." And I believed her. I do not know why, but I believed her with every part of my soul. Outside, the breathing stopped. And then, very slowly, a shadow began to fall across the entrance of our snow house. Something was looking inside. Something was looking at us. And it was smiling. The creature filled the entrance of our shelter. Its head alone was larger than my whole body. It had 4 eyes, 2 on each side, glowing a pale blue color like ice at the bottom of a deep lake. Its mouth was open, showing rows of long black teeth. Its breath rolled into the snow house in a cloud of white mist. It smelled like frozen meat and old blood. I felt my heart stop inside my chest. I had studied the dangerous animals of 50 worlds. I had memorized their weak points and their hunting patterns. But the creature staring at us now was not in any book I had ever read. It was too big. Its eyes were too clever. It was not a simple beast. It was a hunter, a true hunter, one that had learned to break open shelters like ours many times before. The squad behind me did not move, not a single cadet. They were too afraid to breathe. I could not blame them. I could not move either. My sidearm felt like a toy in my hand. Nora sat in the snow with her 2 knives on either side of her. She was relaxed. She looked up at the creature the way a person might look at an old friend who had arrived uninvited. "Hello there," she said softly. "I saw your tracks earlier. I thought you would come by and say hello." The creature made a sound in its throat, low, rolling. It sounded almost confused. I think it had never had a meal speak to it before. Nora stood up. She did not reach for her knives. She stood with her hands empty and open. She took one small step toward the beast. "Squad leader," she said without turning, "do not let them shoot. I am going to walk outside with our guest. We are going to have a short talk. I will be right back." I wanted to scream at her to stop, but my voice would not work. My mouth was frozen. All I could do was watch as this small human girl walked calmly toward the monster blocking our only exit. The creature watched her come. Its 4 eyes tracked her every step. It pulled its head back slowly to make room for her. And then Nora did something that I will never forget. She picked up her knives. Just as she reached the entrance in one smooth motion that I barely saw, she swept up both blades from the snow. Her body did not tense. Her face did not change. She was still smiling when she stepped out into the storm. The creature followed her. It had to back up to give her room. Its huge body moved with strange grace like a dancer in slow motion. The entrance cleared. The wind howled into our shelter. Ice crystals blew across my face. I crawled forward. I had to see. I had to know. I stuck my head out of the snow house. The storm was still raging. I could barely see anything, but I could see Nora. She was standing 20 meters from the shelter. The creature stood in front of her. In the open, I could see how large it truly was. Its shoulders were as high as a building. Its legs were like the trunks of ancient trees. Its tail swept behind it, brushing the snow into waves. And Nora, this small human girl, faced it with a smile on her face. "You are beautiful," I heard her say, her voice carrying somehow through the wind. "I have read about your kind. My grandmother fought one of your ancestors when she was young. She said it was the hardest fight of her life. I hope I can do her memory proud." The creature made another sound. This one was different. It was almost sad, as if it understood her words, as if it knew what was coming. Then the creature lunged. I do not have words for what happened next. I am a trained cadet. I have studied combat. I have watched the best fighters of many species in action. What Nora did was not combat. It was something else, something older. She moved before the creature's jaws could close. She slid under its chest like water flowing between stones. She was there one moment and gone the next. I saw her knife flash twice. The creature screamed, a sound that shook the ice beneath us. It turned to find her, but she was already gone, already on its other side. Another flash of the knife. Another scream. She was not trying to kill it quickly. She was not stabbing wildly. She was placing her blade with perfect care. I realized, watching her, that she knew exactly where to cut. She knew the creature's body better than the creature knew it itself. She was finding nerve clusters, cutting tendons, working her way through its weak points one by one. The beast tried to catch her. It was fast, shockingly fast for something so large, but Nora was faster, or maybe not faster. Maybe she just knew where it would strike before it struck. She read its body the way she had read the clouds. She was always one step ahead. Within 1 minute the creature was limping. Within 2 minutes it had dropped to its knees. Within 3 minutes it lay still on the ice. Nora stood beside it. She placed one hand on its head. She bowed her head slightly, as if saying a prayer. Then she cleaned her knives in the snow and walked back to the shelter. She crawled inside. She sat down in her old spot. She looked up and saw all of us staring at her with wide, shocked eyes. She blushed, actually blushed as if she had done something embarrassing. "I am sorry that took so long," she said. "It was bigger than I expected. I should have been faster. My sister would laugh at me." None of us spoke. We could not. Nora looked at our faces. Her smile became a little worried. "Are you all right?" she asked. "Did I scare you? I am really sorry. I should have warned you that it would make noise." I finally found my voice. It came out as a whisper. "Nora, what was that thing?" "Oh, that was a glacious wraith wolf," she said, as if nomming a common farm animal. "They are all over this region. I am surprised the Academy chose this moon for the test. These wolves have killed a lot of people over the years. No one has ever fought one alone and lived. At least, that is what I read in the Academy library." She paused. She seemed to realize what she had just said. "Oh," she said softly, "I guess I am the first one. That is nice. My mother will be happy." She smiled again. She wiped a bit of frozen blood from her cheek. Outside the shelter, the wind howled. The storm raged on, and the body of the creature lay cooling in the snow, a silent proof of what had just happened. My radio crackled. A new voice came through. It was an instructor. The voice sounded shaken. "All squad leaders, this is the control station. We have a new update. As of this hour, the trial has lost 50 cadets. 20 have been pulled out by medical teams. 30 have withdrawn from the test. 6 entire squads have failed. This is now officially the worst ice trial in 15 years. Please check in with your status." 50 cadets broken in less than a day. I looked at Nora. She was brushing snow off her pants. She looked up at me and tilted her head. "Squad leader," she said politely, "may I ask a question?" "Yes." "How hard is this test supposed to be? I am asking because, honestly, I do not want to be rude, but it feels a little easy. I thought it would be more challenging. The wolf was fine, and the weather is pleasant, and the snow is good for building. Is it supposed to be harder than this? I want to make sure I am not missing something." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I began to laugh. I could not stop. I laughed until tears came out of my eyes. My whole squad began to laugh too, a wild laughter born from shock and relief and the strange, impossible truth of where we were and who we were with. Nora looked around at us, confused but polite. She waited for us to finish. "Nora," I finally said, wiping my eyes, "this is considered one of the hardest tests in the whole academy. Half the students fail it. Some years, students do not come back at all. 50 cadets have already been pulled out of this trial, and we are only a few hours in. Most of the galaxy thinks this is as hard as a test can get." Her eyes went wide. "Oh my," she said. "I did not know. I am sorry. That must be very difficult for everyone." She thought for a moment. "Well," she said, "I will try to help where I can. If you do not mind me giving a few suggestions during the week, I might be able to make things easier for the squad." I nodded slowly. I did not trust my voice. Behind me, the Florins were still shaking, not from cold now, from wonder. One of them whispered something in their soft language. The translator on my ear turned the words into common speech. "She is a gift from the old gods," the Florin whispered. "She is a gift sent to us." Nora did not hear. She was tidying up the entrance of the snow house, pushing snow back into place to seal out the wind. She was humming again, the same soft song from before. I lay back in the shelter. My heart was still beating fast. Above me, through the small air hole Nora had cut in the roof, I could see a few stars. The storm had broken for a moment. The sky was clear and cold and beautiful. Somewhere out there, 50 cadets were being taken home in defeat. Somewhere out there, Other squads were freezing and fighting and falling. And here, in our small, warm shelter of snow, a girl from a Deathworld was humming a song and planning how to make the next 6 days easier for her squad. I closed my eyes. I tried to rest. The trial had 7 days to go, and I had a feeling that every single one of them was going to change my life. I was right about that. I was just not prepared for how much. Because Nora Bell was not just going to help us survive. She was going to show the whole galaxy what humans really were. And nothing would ever be the same again. Morning came slowly on Glacius 4. The sun was a weak red disk in the gray sky. It gave almost no heat, but it gave light, and light was what we needed to move. I crawled out of the snow house first. The air bit my face. The cold was still cruel, but the wind had died down. The storm had moved east during the night. The wraith wolf was still there. Its body had frozen solid in the night. Already, ice had begun to cover its dark fur. Soon it would be just another shape in the endless white. I stared at it for a long time. I could still not believe what I had seen. Nora came out behind me. She stretched her arms above her head and smiled up at the sky. "Good morning," she said. "It is a beautiful day. We should make good time today." She walked over to the dead creature and knelt beside it. She pulled out her knife. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Taking some meat," she said, "and some of the fur. The meat will feed us for 3 or 4 days if we ration it. The fur will make better boots for the squad. Our standard issue boots will not last another day in this cold. I can see they are already cracking." She began to work. Her movements were efficient and respectful. She did not hack or tear. She cut with precision, taking what we needed and no more. As she worked, she spoke softly to the dead animal, words in her own language that I could not understand. When I asked her what she was saying, she looked up with a small smile. "I am thanking it," she said. "Back home, we always thank the animals that feed us. It is how we were taught. Every life we take to keep our lives must be honored. My grandmother said that the day we stop thanking them is the day we stop deserving them." I nodded. I did not know what to say. The rest of the squad came out slowly. They saw Nora working and moved to help her. Even the Florins, who did not eat meat, helped carry the fur strips. Within an hour, we had enough food for the weak and rough fur coverings for our cracked boots. Nora showed the squad how to bind the fur to our feet using strips of wraith wolf tendon. She taught each cadet personally. She was patient and kind. She never made anyone feel foolish. I watched my squad change in front of my eyes. Yesterday, they had been scared children. Today, they were beginning to look like a team, a real team. They watched Nora and copied her. They asked her questions. They listened to her answers. And something else was happening, something I had not expected. They were starting to smile. In the middle of the worst ice trial in 15 years, with 50 cadets already broken and sent home, my squad was smiling. Because this girl made them believe that they could survive. And belief, I was learning, was more warming than any fire. We packed up our gear. Nora collapsed the snow house so that no wandering animal would try to use it as a trap. She cleaned the area of our human scent as best she could, using the fur scraps to rub away our tracks. "Why are you doing that?" I asked. "The wraith wolves hunt in family groups," she said. "When one does not come home, the others come looking. They follow scent. We need to be far away before they arrive. I would rather not have to fight a whole family." I felt the cold creep back into my bones. More of those things. A whole family. And she said it like she was talking about rainy weather. We began to walk. The first checkpoint was 260 kilometers away. With our new boots and some food in our bellies, we made good time. Nora led the way most of the time, reading the land as she went. She showed us how to walk on the ice without breaking through thin spots. She showed us how to tell a safe snow drift from a dangerous one. She showed us how to rest without losing body heat. Every hour she taught us something new, and every hour my respect for her grew deeper. Around midday, the radio crackled again. The control station gave an update. 2 more squads had failed. 1 cadet had been seriously injured. The trial now had fewer than half its original cadets still active. I looked at Nora. She was walking at the front of our group, pointing at something in the distance. I could not hear what she was saying, but the cadets around her were nodding and following her gestures. She was leading them, not because I had given her authority, because they trusted her. They trusted her with their lives. And truth be told, so did I. By evening, we had covered 40 kilometers. That was more than any squad was expected to cover in one day. I was proud of my team. We stopped to make camp in the shelter of a rocky outcrop. Nora showed us how to build a fire using the oil from the wraith wolf fat. The fire burned hot and clean. For the first time in a day, we ate warm food. As we sat around the fire, one of my Silvec squad mates, a young male named Tessic, leaned over to me. "Squad leader," he said quietly, "may I ask something?" "Of course." "Are all humans like her? I have not met many humans, but I thought they were soft. I thought they were weak. I read in the Xeno book that they came from a mild world and had no special strength." I thought about his question. I watched Nora across the fire. She was helping a Florin tie his fur boots tighter. She was laughing at something he had said. "I do not think she is a normal human," I said. "I think she is something special, but I am not sure anymore. I am not sure what humans are. I think we have been wrong about them for a long time." Tessic nodded slowly. He turned back to the fire. He had a look in his eyes that I had never seen before. It was something like hope. That night Nora took the first watch. She sat at the edge of the firelight, her knives at her side, her eyes on the dark. The squad slept peacefully. The wind was low. The stars were bright. I lay awake for a long time. I thought about the trial. I thought about the cadets who had been sent home. I thought about the ones who were still out there, suffering, afraid. And I thought about what Nora had said, that this was too easy. I did not know yet what was coming in the days ahead. I did not know about the ice storm that would catch us on day 3. I did not know about the hidden cave that would nearly kill half my squad. I did not know about the other cadets we would meet, or the lost squad we would find, or the moment when Nora would walk alone into the worst blizzard the moon had seen in 100 years. I only knew, as I lay there looking at the stars, that I was glad she was on my side. Because whatever was coming, I did not want to face it without her. And somewhere out in the dark, the family of the wraith wolf we had taken was beginning to gather. They had found the place where their brother had died. They had found our scent, and they were not the forgiving kind. The real trial was about to begin. On the 3rd morning, Nara woke me before the sun rose. Her hand was gentle on my shoulder. Her voice was a whisper. "Squad leader, wake up, please." I opened my eyes. She was crouched beside me. Her face was serious. In the dim light of the dying fire, her eyes looked darker than usual. "What is it?" I asked. "Something is coming," she said. "A storm, a bad one, I can smell it. It will be here in about 2 hours. We need to move now. This place will not be safe." I sat up. I pulled my cloak tight around me. "How bad?" I asked. She hesitated. That alone told me more than any words could. Nora Bell did not hesitate. Not about cold, not about weather, not about creatures. "I have not seen one like this before," she said slowly. "The air pressure is dropping very fast. The clouds on the horizon are moving in a strange pattern. Back home, when we see signs like this, we go deep into our shelters and we do not come out for days. This storm will be strong enough to pick up grown adults and throw them like toys. We cannot be caught in the open." I stood up immediately. I began to wake the squad. Nora did the same on the other side of the camp. Within minutes, every cadet was up and packing their gear. No one complained. No one asked questions. They had learned in 3 days to trust Nora's warnings without doubt. The sky was still dark. The stars were beginning to fade. I looked at the horizon. I could see what Nora had seen. A line of clouds, thick and low, rolling toward us like a black wall. It was moving faster than any storm I had ever studied. The wind was picking up already. "Where do we go?" I asked her. She pointed to the east. "There is a ridge that way, rocky, with overhangs. If we can reach it before the storm hits, we can shelter in the stone. The wind will not be able to reach us there." "How far?" 10 kilometers, maybe 11. I looked at my squad. They were tired. They had walked hard the day before. 10 kilometers in 2 hours through this terrain would push them to their limits. But the alternative was to be caught in the open, by a storm that could throw grown adults. "We run," I said. And we ran. The squad moved as one. The Florins, who were not built for running, were carried on the backs of the stronger cadets. The Dravorians held hands to help each other keep pace. The Ketan cadets used their extra limbs to steady themselves on the icy ground. And Nora ran at the front, setting the pace, calling out warnings about holes and thin ice. Behind us the sky grew darker. The wind rose to a howl. I could hear a deeper sound now underneath the wind, a kind of roar, like a waterfall, but coming from the air itself. We ran for an hour, 2 kilometers left. The storm was gaining on us. I could feel the ice particles starting to hit my back. My lungs were burning. My legs were screaming, but I kept running. Nora suddenly stopped. She held up a hand. We all slowed. My heart was pounding. "What?" I gasped. "Listen," she said. At first I heard nothing but the wind, and then I heard it, a sound from our right, a sound I had heard before, low, rolling, hungry. The Wraith wolf family had found us. Out of the gray morning, shapes began to appear, 4 of them, 5, 6. They came out of the snow like ghosts taking form. Their blue eyes glowed, their teeth were bared, and they had come for blood. The storm was 2 kilometers behind us. It would hit in less than 30 minutes. The ridge was 2 kilometers ahead, and now 6 giant predators stood between us and survival. I turned to Nora. Her face was calm, her hand was on her knife. She was already thinking, already planning. "Squad leader," she said, "I need you to do something for me." "Anything." "Take the squad, run to the ridge, do not stop, do not look back. No matter what you hear, do not stop." "Nora, what are you going to do?" She smiled at me. It was a small smile, a sad one but steady. "I am going to buy you time," she said. "I will catch up when I can." "No," I said, "I will not leave you." Her smile grew a little warmer. "Squad leader," she said, "I am not asking, I am telling. These are not just my squad mates. They are your squad, they are your responsibility. Get them to the ridge, save them, I will handle this. I have done this before many times. I know what I am doing, please trust me." I looked into her eyes, and I saw something there. Not fear, not arrogance, just a deep, calm certainty. The certainty of someone who has been here before in worse places against worse odds and come out the other side. I nodded. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. "Come back to us, Nora," I said. "I will," she said. "Tell the squad I said hello." And then she turned and walked toward the 6 Wraith wolves. I gave the order. The squad ran. I was the last to turn away. I looked over my shoulder one final time. Nora was standing in the open. The 6 great creatures were circling her. She had drawn both knives. She looked so small compared to them, so fragile. And then she began to move. I forced myself to turn away. I ran. My squad ran beside me. Behind us, the sounds of the fight began. Roars, screams, then more roars. I did not stop. I did not look back. I led my squad to the ridge. We made it inside the stone shelter just as the storm hit. The wind was so strong it shook the mountain itself. For hours we huddled in the rock. The storm screamed outside. I stared at the entrance, waiting, hopping, praying to gods I had not spoken to since I was a child. The storm raged for 6 hours. When it finally broke, I went to the entrance. I could see nothing. The world was buried in fresh snow. And then, in the distance, a figure began to walk toward us. Small, limping slightly, covered in frozen blood that was not her own. She was carrying something on her back. It looked like a piece of fur. It was Nora. She walked up to the entrance. She was smiling, though her lips were cracked. She looked exhausted but whole. "Sorry I took so long," she said. "Two of them got clever. I had to chase them a little, but we should be fine now, and I brought dinner." She dropped the bundle of fur. It was wolf meat, enough to feed the squad for a week. My squad surrounded her. They hugged her. Even the Florins, who did not usually touch others, wrapped their leaves around her shoulders. They wept. They laughed. They called her sister, friend, hero. Nora blushed through all of it. "It was nothing," she kept saying. "Please, it was nothing." That night, as we ate the warm meat and listened to the wind die down outside, I sat beside her. I watched her eat. She was so tired. Her hands shook slightly when she lifted her cup. "Nora," I said quietly, "6 of them alone in a storm. How did you do it?" She thought for a long moment. She sipped her drink. Then she turned to me with that same soft smile. "I grew up doing harder things than that, squad leader," she said. "On Colette, my sister and I used to hunt bigger creatures just to practice. 6 wraith wolves is a lot, but they are not the worst thing I have faced, not even close." She looked into the fire. "I miss my sister," she said softly. "She would have enjoyed this. She would have said it was a good warm-up." I stared at her. "A good warm-up." "Nora," I whispered, "what exactly is your sister like?" She laughed, a real laugh, full and bright. "Oh, my sister," she said. "My sister is the scary one in the family. I am the soft one. She could probably finish this whole trial in a day, by herself, without a knife." I closed my eyes. I did not know what to think anymore. Across the fire, the squad had fallen asleep. They were smiling in their dreams, safe, warm, alive because of her. And somewhere on a distant Deathworld, a 12-year-old girl was sharpening her blades and waiting for her sister to come home. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. No idea at all. By day 5, something strange had begun to happen. Other squads were following us. It started with Squad Cap9. We came across them as we crossed a frozen lake. 4 of their 12 cadets were badly hurt from cold injury. Their leader, a proud cadet from the Vorthan race named Harold Crane, refused to ask for help. Vorthan pride is famous across the galaxy. They would rather die than admit weakness. Nora did not care about his pride. She walked up to the smallest of his injured cadets, a tiny Dravorian who was barely breathing, and picked her up. She settled the cadet on her back. "We are going the same way," she said to Harold without waiting for permission. "You might as well walk with us. It is safer that way. No offense meant." Harold stared at her, his mouth open to argue. Then he looked at his cadets. He looked at the ice stretching ahead. He looked at Nora with the injured girl on her back, already walking forward. And something broke inside him, not in a bad way, in a good way, the kind of breaking that lets in light. He nodded. His squad fell in behind ours. By the next morning, we had gathered 2 more squads. Squad Beta-4 found us first. They were down to 8 cadets and had lost their map and most of their supplies. Nora gave them food and showed them how to find direction from the stars. Then Squad Row 7 stumbled into our camp at dawn, led by a cadet with a broken arm and a group of followers who had not eaten in 2 days. Nora fed them all. She did not make a big show of it. She simply divided up the wraith wolf meat and handed it out like a mother giving dinner to her children. By the end of day 5, we were a group of 41 cadets, moving as one. And Nora, without trying, had become the leader of all of them. The instructors noticed. I heard their voices on the emergency channel. They were arguing. One instructor, a stern old teacher named Proctor Corv, thought Nora was breaking the trial rules. He said she was helping too many people. He said the trial was supposed to be a test of individual skill. Another instructor, a softer voice that I did not recognize, argued back. She pointed out that Nora had broken no actual rules. There was nothing in the handbook against helping other squads, and the cadets who followed her were passing the trial on their own feet. They were not being carried. They were walking. They were surviving. They were learning. "She is not cheating," the soft voice said. "She is leading. Have we forgotten what leadership looks like? That is what the trial is supposed to find." The channel went silent for a while after that. I could not hear the rest, but I think the soft voice won the argument, because no one came to remove Nora from the trial. No one stopped her from helping others. On the evening of day 5, we reached the base of a great cliff. The second checkpoint sat at the top. The cliff was almost straight up, 300 meters of smooth ice. Most squads would have gone around. It would have added 2 days to their journey. We did not have 2 days. The final deadline was approaching. Nora looked up at the cliff. She rolled her shoulders. "Squad leader," she said, "I will set the lines. Give me an hour." And before I could stop her, she began to climb. Free climb, no ropes, no safety gear, just her hands and feet and the ice. Harold Crane came to stand beside me. He watched with his mouth slightly open. "She is climbing like the old mountain spirits of my people," he whispered. "We tell stories of climbers like this. We thought they were myths." "She is not a myth," I said. "She is just from Kalat." Harold shook his head slowly. "I think," he said, "that all myths come from somewhere. I think Kalat is where the myths come from, and this girl is the newest one." Nora reached the top. She worked for 20 minutes setting anchors into the stone. She dropped ropes for us. One by one we climbed, slowly, carefully, with Nora calling encouragement from above. By nightfall, all 41 of us stood at the top of the cliff. The second checkpoint was there. We registered our arrival. The instructor on duty stared at us through her monitoring system. She counted us twice. "Squad Theta 7, she said. "This is highly unusual. You are reporting 41 cadets at checkpoint 2. Your squad has 12. Please explain." I looked at Nora. She smiled at me shyly. She did not want to take credit. "Control," I said. "Squad Theta 7 has gathered other squads along our route. We are moving together as one group. We have shared food, shelter, and knowledge. All cadets present are healthy and able to continue." The instructor was silent for a long moment. "Squad leader," she said finally, "in my 20 years with the Academy I have never seen this. Congratulations, you have made history." "It is not my doing, Control," I said honestly. "The cadet who deserves the credit is my squad mate, Nora Bell." Another silence. "Noted," the instructor said quietly. "Please proceed to the final checkpoint. You have 2 days remaining." We made camp at the top of the cliff. The cadets were in high spirits. They had climbed a cliff most of them had thought impossible. They had food. They had warm shelter. They had each other. For the first time since the trial began, there was laughter around the fire. But Nora did not laugh with us that night. She sat apart looking at her wrist device. I walked over to her. I sat down beside her in the snow. "What is it?" I asked. She showed me the screen. A small red dot was blinking on the map. "This is an emergency signal," she said. "It has been on for 3 days. It is 60 kilometers to the east. The Academy has not sent anyone to check it. I have been watching it since yesterday." I looked at the dot, then I looked at her. "Who is it?" "I do not know for sure, but I think it is Squad Omicron 1. They went dark on day 2. The instructors marked them as lost, but their emergency beacon is still active. That means at least someone is still alive over there." I checked my own map. "The final checkpoint is that way," I said, pointing in the opposite direction. "We have 2 days left. If we go to find them, we will miss the final checkpoint. We will fail the trial." Nora nodded slowly. She did not look at me. "I know," she said. We sat in silence for a long time. The fire crackled behind us. My squad laughed and told stories. The other squads were already calling us heroes. Tomorrow, we would march toward the final checkpoint. We would pass the trial. We would return home as the most successful squad in Academy history. Or we could go the other way, and fail, and try to save 11 cadets who might already be dead. I looked at Nora's face in the firelight. Her jaw was set. Her eyes were fixed on the blinking red dot. I already knew what she was going to say. I already knew what she was going to do. I already knew because I was learning slowly who she really was. "You are going after them," I said. "Are you not?" She turned to me. Her eyes were soft and sad. "Squad leader," she said, "I cannot leave them. If there is even one of them still alive, I cannot leave them. My grandmother told me once that the mark of a real person is not what they do when the world is watching. It is what they do when no one would blame them for walking away. I cannot walk away, not from this." I nodded. I had known her for 5 days, and already she had taught me more about honor than my whole life at the academy. "Then we go together," I said. "No," she said gently. "You need to take the squad to the final checkpoint. You need to lead them home. That is your job. You are a good leader, Vel. I am not trying to take that from you. Let me do this thing. Let me handle it." "You cannot go alone, Nora." "I will not go alone," she said. "I will take 3 volunteers, ones who can keep up, ones who will not slow me down. We will move fast, get to the beacon, bring back whoever is still alive, and meet you at the extraction point." "The extraction point is in 2 days," I said. 60 kilometers there, 60 back, plus finding them, plus bringing them out. There is no way you can do it in time." She smiled, that same soft, quiet smile. "Watch me," she said. The next morning she asked for volunteers. Harold Crane stepped forward without a word. 2 of my own Silvac cadets, Tessic and a female named Varen, also stepped up. Nora accepted all 3. The rest of us watched them prepare their gear. Nora took very little with her. Just her knives, a small amount of food, a thermal blanket, and her knowledge. She looked at me before she left. "Get them home, Vel," she said. "All of them. That is your mission. I will meet you at the extraction point." "Nora," I said, "if you are not there by deadline, I will come back for you." She laughed. "No, you will not. You will take them home. That is an order from a cadet to her squad leader. Accept it." I did not accept it. I just watched her walk into the snow with her 3 volunteers, away from safety, away from the final checkpoint, away from the life we had all fought so hard to keep, toward 11 cadets who might already be beyond saving. I turned to the squad. 37 cadets looked back at me. Their faces were tired but determined. They were ready to march. "Let us go home," I said quietly. And we began the long walk to the final checkpoint. But I looked over my shoulder many times that day, hoping to see a small figure coming back through the snow, hoping she was alive, hoping Nora Bell would keep her promise. And somewhere in the ice, far to the east, something ancient and hungry was waiting at the bottom of a hidden cave. Something that had taken Squad Omicron 1 and was planning to take whoever came looking for them. It did not know that Nora Bell was coming. It did not know that everything was about to change. We reached the final checkpoint at 200 hours on the last day of the trial. 37 cadets, all alive, all on their feet, some limping, some leaning on friends, but all moving under their own power. I gave the report to the control station. The instructor who answered could not speak for a full minute. I had to repeat myself. Squad Theta 7 reporting in, plus 30 cadets from Squads Kappa 9, Beta 4, and Row 7, all present, all alive. "All of them," the instructor finally whispered. "All of them." "And Cadet Bell, where is Cadet Bell?" I swallowed hard. Cadet Bell took 3 volunteers. They went east to rescue Squad Omicron 1. They left yesterday morning. They have not returned yet. The silence on the other end lasted even longer. Then a new voice came on. It was older, stronger. I recognized it. Proctor Corv, the stern instructor who had wanted Nora disqualified. "Squad leader," he said, "is Cadet Bell telling us that she has gone to find the lost squad?" "Yes, Proctor." "Squad leader, Squad Omicron 1 was declared missing 3 days ago. They went dark near a geothermal cave system. We believe they fell into an ice cavern. The area is extremely dangerous. There are creatures down there that the Academy has lost people to before. We did not send a rescue team because the risk was too high. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Yes, Proctor, I understand." "And Cadet Bell went anyway?" "Yes, Proctor, she did." Another long silence. "Squad leader," Proctor Corv said, and his voice was different now. Softer, almost gentle. "Tell me about this cadet. I need to know more." I told him everything. The Wraith Wolf on the first night. The 6 wolves in the storm, the snow house, the teaching, the leading, the healing. The way she gathered lost squads like a mother gathering lost children. The way she made everyone believe they could survive. The way she laughed. The way she said over and over again that the trial was too easy. When I finished, Proctor Corv did not speak. I heard him breathing on the other end. "Squad leader," he finally said, "the deadline for the trial is 600 hours. That is 4 hours from now. If Cadet Bell is not here by that time, she will be marked as missing. The extraction ship will leave at 6:15 sharp. We cannot wait longer. Do you understand?" "Yes, Proctor." "I hope she comes back," he said quietly. "I have been wrong about many things this week. I do not want to be wrong about this." The channel closed. I sat down on a crate near the checkpoint. Around me the squads were celebrating quietly. They had survived. They were going home, but no one cheered loudly. No one laughed with joy, because one of us was not here yet. We waited. The hours passed slowly. 300, 400, 500. The sky began to lighten. The wind was still. The stars began to fade. 5:30 came. Still no sign of her. Harold Crane's squad mates were packing. They had not wanted to leave him. They kept looking east, as if they could make him appear by sheer want. I stood up. I could not sit anymore. I walked to the edge of the landing zone. The extraction ship sat on the ice, its engines starting to warm up. In 15 minutes it would lift off, with us, without them. I closed my eyes. I spoke to the old gods of my people. I asked them to bring her home. And then from the east I saw a shape. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. The ice can do that in the early morning light. You see things that are not there, but the shape grew larger. Then it was 2 shapes, then 4, then more. "Squad leader," someone beside me whispered, "Look." I looked. I could see it clearly now. A line of figures walking toward us through the snow. Some were being carried. Some were walking on their own. They were moving slowly, but they were moving. At the front of the line, a small figure, carrying 2 cadets over her shoulders, limping, covered in frozen blood. "Nora." I ran. I did not think. I just ran. Half the squad ran with me. We crossed the ice. We met them 100 meters from the landing zone. Nora set down the 2 cadets she was carrying. They were alive, barely, but alive. Behind her came Harold Crane. He was half supporting, half carrying a wounded cadet. His face was pale. His arm was bleeding. Behind him came Tessic and Varen. They were carrying another cadet between them. Their faces were haunted. Their eyes were dark. And behind them came the rest. 8 more cadets from Squad Omicron 1. Beaten, cold, nearly broken, but alive, all of them alive. 11 cadets. Every single one of Squad Omicron 1 had come back. I ran to Nora. I wanted to hug her, but I stopped. She was more hurt than I had ever seen her. Her uniform was in shreds. There were deep cuts on her arms and face. Something dark and wet was frozen to her hair. Her eyes were tired, so tired. Her smile was small and weak, but it was there. "Sorry I am a little late," she whispered. "It took longer than I thought." I could not speak, I just nodded. I reached out and put my hand on her shoulder. She was shaking, not from cold, from exhaustion. The medics ran out from the ship. They surrounded the returning cadets. Blankets were thrown over shoulders. Warm drinks were pressed into hands. The wounded were carried onto the ship. Omicron One was going home. Nora stood in the middle of it all, refusing help. "I can walk," she kept saying. "Help them first. I can walk." Proctor Korv himself came down the ramp of the ship. He was an old Kethani. His race is known for its cold faces, its hard warriors, its long memory. He had fought in 3 wars. He had trained thousands of cadets. He had seen everything there was to see at the academy. He walked up to Nora. She stood as straight as she could. She saluted him with a shaking hand. He did not return her salute at first. He just looked at her. He looked at the cadets behind her. He looked at the blood on her uniform and the knife at her hip and the tiredness in her eyes. He stood there for a long moment, silent. Then slowly, he saluted her back. A proctor saluting a cadet. The entire landing zone fell silent. Every cadet saw it. Every proctor saw it. The moment lasted only a few seconds, but it changed the academy forever. "Cadet Bell," Proctor Korv said, his voice thick. "Welcome back. Please come aboard. You have done enough." She nodded. She took one step. Her legs gave out. Harold Crane caught her before she hit the ground. He lifted her like she weighed nothing. He carried her up the ramp. She was already asleep before they reached the top. We all boarded the ship. The engines fired. We lifted off the ice. Glacius 4 fell away below us. I watched it through the window as we rose. The moon looked peaceful from above. No one could guess, looking at it, what it had cost, what it had taken, what it had tried to take. I sat beside Nora on the ship. She slept for most of the flight. The medics had wrapped her in a thermal blanket. They had put a hot drink in her hand that she had not yet touched. She was breathing slowly. Her face was finally relaxed. As we approached the home station, she began to wake up. She opened her eyes. She saw me. She smiled. "Hi, Vel," she said softly. "Hi, Nora. Did we make it?" "We made it, all of us. Every single cadet is alive." She closed her eyes again. A tear rolled down her cheek. It was the first and only time I ever saw her cry. "Good," she whispered. "That is good." In the debriefing room, after medical checks, the junior instructor who was recording our reports asked her a question. The same question we had all been asking for a week. "Cadet Bell, on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult would you rate the Glacius 4 trial?" Nora sat in her chair. She thought about the question. She took it seriously, the way she took every question seriously. She turned it over in her mind. She looked at her hands. She looked at the scars that were already forming on her knuckles. Then she looked up. She smiled. A small, honest, apologetic smile. "Honestly," she said, "it was kind of too easy. I hope that is not rude to say. I am sure it would be very hard for someone who did not grow up with this kind of cold. But for me, it was more like a long walk. I am sorry. I really do not mean to be rude." The instructor stared at her. He looked at me. I shrugged. He looked back at Nora. "Cadet Bell," he said slowly, "you fought a wraith wolf on your first night, alone. You defeated 6 more of them in a blizzard. You saved your squad. You gathered 3 other squads and led them to survival. You climbed an ice cliff with your bare hands. And then, with the trial almost over, you walked 60 kilometers into a storm, rescued 11 cadets from a cave full of predators, and walked 60 kilometers back. All in 1 week. And you are telling me it was too easy." Nora thought about it again. She did not want to offend him. "Well," she said slowly, "when you list it like that, it does sound like a lot. But my sister could have done it in 3 days, and my grandmother would have done it without a knife. So, you know, too easy." The instructor closed his notebook. He set it down. He looked at Nora for a long time. Then he began to laugh. He laughed until there were tears in his eyes. She waited politely until he was finished. That was 11 years ago. I am an admiral now. I command a ship with 3,000 crew. I have served in 2 wars. I have flown across most of the galaxy. I have seen many things and learned many lessons and survived many trials harder than Glacius 4. But I have never forgotten that week. I have never forgotten what Nora Bell taught me. She became an admiral too. Last year I was at her ceremony. She stood on the stage and accepted her rank with the same soft smile she had on the first day I met her. After, at the private gathering, she pulled me aside. "Vel," she said quietly, "command is kind of hard, you know. It is harder than I thought. I'm not sure I am doing it right." I nearly dropped my drink. I stared at her. "Nora," I said, "if you are saying command is hard, then the whole galaxy is in trouble." She laughed. A real laugh, the first time I had ever heard her admit something was difficult. "Well," she said, "do not tell anyone. I do not want to worry people." I have thought about that moment many times since, because I understand now what Nora is, what humans are. They are not a soft race. They are not weak. They are not simple. They are the children of a planet that tried to kill them every day, and they did not just survive. They flourished. They turned pain into strength. They turned cold into fuel. They turned fear into fuel, and they built a civilization from it. When junior officers come to me now, and they ask why we always want humans on our cold world missions, I tell them this story. I tell them about the ice. I tell them about the wolves. I tell them about the 50 cadets who were sent home, and I tell them what I learned on Glacius 4. If a human ever tells you something is too easy, pay attention. If a human says a task is hard, you had better start running. Because whatever is coming next is going to take a human to survive it. And you, my friend, are not a human. I still speak to Nora. She commands her fleet with the same quiet kindness she used to hold our squad together. Her ships are the most loyal in the service. Her officers would follow her into the center of a star. And when the hard missions come, the missions no one else wants, her fleet is always the first to volunteer. Last month she sent me a message. It was short. It said only, "Going to the far rim, will be quiet for a while. Take care of yourself, Vel, stay warm." The far rim is where the dark things live, the creatures we do not have names for, the spaces between systems that no ship comes back from. She is taking her fleet there, because someone has to. And Nora Bell always goes where someone has to. I hope she comes back. I think she will. She always does. And if she does not, then whatever is out there at the far rim has made the worst mistake of its existence. Because if Nora Bell is walking into your territory, smiling and apologizing, you are already lost. You just do not know it yet. Somewhere on a frozen colony world called Kalat, her little sister is still hunting, still sharpening her blades, still waiting for the day she will be called to serve. She is a woman now. She is said to be the finest warrior the human species has ever produced. The galaxy has no idea. None at all. But one day they will find out. And on that day, I will pour myself a warm drink, raise it to the stars, and whisper the words that have kept me alive for 11 years. Humans are not soft. Humans are fire wrapped in a smile. And the coldest places in the galaxy are where they burn the brightest.